Hello everyone, welcome to my podcast. I am your host Fatma Zehra Duman. Today I will be telling you the story of Geppetto and Puppet Pinocchio. This is not just a fairy tale, it's a story about learning, making mistakes and finding our hearts. One day, the carpenter Geppetto made himself a puppet child from a log he found in the forest and named him Pinocchio. That evening, before going to sleep, he made a wish and said, "I wish he were real." Geppetto woke up in the morning to the sound of tapping noses coming from his workshop. And what did he see? The puppet he had made had come to life. At that moment, Geppetto was overjoyed because he was no longer alone. Because Geppetto wanted Pinocchio to go to school, he sold his only coat and gave him the money, so he could buy a book. Pinocchio took the money and set off on his way. In the middle of the road, he saw a large crowd and, feeling curious and wanted to pass through them and enter the big tent. However, the clown did not allow him to enter. He said that Pinocchio couldn't go in without paying. Then Pinocchio remembered the money his father had given him, handed it to the man, and went inside. Inside, he saw puppets just like himself dancing, so he jumped onto the stage. The audience found this very interesting and began throwing money. The curious over was watching them from the back. As soon as the show was over, the circus over grabbed Pinocchio and looked at him in a cage. While Pinocchio was crying helplessly, a fairy appeared from within a blue light. Seeing that Pinocchio was remorseful, the fairy freed him from the cage, returned his money, warned him, and then disappeared. While Pinocchio was happily walking to buy a notebook and pencil, he was approached by the cunning fox and cats. They suggested that he bury his money to grow a money tree. Finding this idea reasonable, Pinocchio gave them the money. As Pinocchio was watching the cats and the fox walk away, the fairy returned. When she asked what had happened, Pinocchio told a lie, and suddenly his nose began to grow longer and longer. As his lies grew, Pinocchio finally gave up and told the fairy the truth. Because he told the truth, the fairy turned his nose back to original size and gave him his money back once again. Pinocchio set off on his journey once again, but this time he ran into the circus owner. The circus owner was very angry because Pinocchio had escaped, so he grabbed him and threw him into the sea. Since Pinocchio was made of wood, he didn't sink and began to float and swim. A strong wave swept him away, and he suddenly found himself inside a whale. Meanwhile, worried about Pinocchio, Geppetto set out to look for him. He asked the fishermen he met along the shore. Since they knew him, they wanted to help and gave him a small boat. Geppetto fell from the boat and sank toward the bottom of the sea, where he was swallowed by a whale. While inside the whale, he heard the sound of someone crying. And what did he see? It was his son, Pinocchio. He immediately hugged him, and the fairy appeared and rescued them both. That night, Pinocchio said, "I wish I were a real boy," and fell asleep. Seeing that Pinocchio had finally become a well-behaved child, The fairy rewarded him by turning him into a real boy. When Pinocchio woke up the next morning and looked into the mirror, he saw that he was a real boy made of flesh and blood. He ran into Geppetto's arms, and from that day on, they lived happily ever after.